back then it was complicated, but no one in the industry understood it. It was written in legalese. The certain players in the industry.
So guys, I've got a full team.
Thanks, mate.
I'll be back next time, but
See you, mate.
Right, players in the industry took it and ran with their narrative, whichever they wanted to say it. People saying it only affected owner drivers, didn't affect fleet owners, blah blah blah. It did, but the way it was written and the complexity of the legislation, that will just go on everyone, right? The fact is that's now been repealed. It's no longer enforced. We know what's happened since. Rates have gone down, enforcement's gone up, right? The wages are staying about the same, it's not dropping as well, right? What Steve said was true though. In 2014 order gave the Fair Work Ombudsman teeth to investigate. So basically that order has stayed in place. If you're not getting paid correctly by your employer, or you're not getting paid to award conditions, you would have been able to go to the Fair Work Ombudsman with your pay slip, say, this is what's happening, fix it. Right? But that's out the window now, and the Fair Work Ombudsman has gone back to being what it always has been, a toothless tiger, and it's now stacked with the Fair Work Commission, which is the kind of the court body that judges these things, being stacked by the LNP with their own people, and they interpret things the way that they see fit, which is never going to be our way, right? So what we need to do now is concentrate on today is, today, this year, this sort of last couple of years is the state of the industry today. We've got more and more enforcement. The fines are going up and up. Right? The cameras, in my opinion, are causing more deaths than they say, because blokes are driving fatigued to get past the last camera, to have a break, and when they're past that last camera, they're normally in a capital city where there's nowhere to park. They've got to try and find somewhere in an industrial area if the council doesn't book them or anything else like that. So the issue is these cameras are causing more fatigue-related crashes than safety. You blokes that have been out there would know, you've got to get past that last camera. You can't stop like you did in the old days, around 2 or 3 hours in a park back at Manila or something like that, and then go in Melbourne, because the last camera's at Wallen now. You've got to get past that camera, and that means driving fatigued all night, get past the truck. So that's the issue there. The other issue we have is I don't know how many people run into New South Wales, but it's an absolute abundance of legislation, not just the heavy vehicle national, but all these little regulations that run off the Road Transport Act and the RMS, well they call themselves now Transport for New South Wales, are utilising legislation that no one's ever heard of, definitions that aren't even in the heavy vehicle national law. I'll give you a good case of this. If you get caught at a camera in New South Wales travelling too close to another vehicle, the charge they'll charge you with is Class B, C vehicle travel too closely to other heavy vehicle in average speed zone. Does anyone in this room know what a Class B or C vehicle is?
I don't.
No.
Sorry? That's 4, and a $1,348 fine, right? Now, so no one knows what a Class B or C vehicle. You know what a safety camera average speed zone is? 60. Sorry? 60. No. What's the actual zone? Does anyone know what the zone is?
22
No. Sorry, yes, but it's not.
It's called blue technical.
So what it is, it's hidden very, very deep inside legislation and regulations that I'm pretty positive none of you guys are going to be able to find, right? But for a safety cam zone, it's a zone between the safety cam sign and 300 metres past the actual safety cam entry, right? That's a safety cam zone. You've learned something today, right? But
So what you're saying is if you break going into that camera, you're still going to top your average.
yeah. By the time you see that camera and you see motorists hitting the anchors in front of you, it's too late, right? It's an average speed zone, right? And the reason they don't apply it to cars, only trucks, right? It's a pretty simple answer to this. Because solicitors and judges drive cars, not trucks, right? And the reason I say that is because all speeding offences are what they call strict liability offences. They have to prove exactly what speed you're doing, and exactly where you were doing it, right? An average speed camera can't do that. That's why it's only applied to trucks, because they figure that not many trucks are judges and truck drivers are judges and solicitors, and no one really cares about truck drivers anyway, so we'll just shaft them this way, and happy days, the money keeps coming in.
So what is the actual spacing from one truck to another when you go under that camera? Is it 60 metres?
If you're on a single lane road, it's 60 metres. If you're on a road train, it's 200 metres out in the west. But those travel too closely does not apply on divided highway. So if you're going under the camera, say at
In highway?
Tabletop, any of those places, the 60 metre rule doesn't apply.
How about here?
It's not everywhere. It only applies on a single lane road, and it only applies in a built up area, which the definition of that is when you've got street lights or buildings no more than 100 metres apart.
And these are the technical things that we're trying to address in the podcast about these obscure laws in the National Heavy Vehicle Law, like under Section 570, where it's an offence to remain silent. They can compel you to answer questions, right? It's an offence to remain silent. It's an offence not to answer the question.
Where do you get that from?
That's Section 570 of the Act.
But just on that, right? In Australia,
There is provisions under 5AA to answer a question that you don't. That first of all, you have to object to answering, right? It's not an offence to object to answer, but it's an offence to fail to answer.
but just on that,
Because the direction is to answer.
But unless you have a reasonable excuse, as most of it.
As a responsible person under the Act, right? They have the power to do that.
but in Australia, right, that you've heard people, and you would have seen on Facebook, people talking about common law and all this stuff, right? What common law is judge-made or precedential law, right? So it's nothing to do with the Magna Carta, it's nothing to do with Robin Hood or anything like that. It's in Australia, it's the common law of Australia, which is then superior courts, the Supreme Courts, or above being the High Court, make a ruling, that enters the common law. And superior courts can overrule statute, and that stays in the common law until the statute overrules the common law, right? Am I not going to above your heads here? Right? So the common law in Australia is you do not have to sign, produce anything, say anything that could potentially incriminate you or lead you liable to a civil or criminal penalty, right? The only way that the statute can overrule that common law, and this is what the High Court has said, is when that intent is clearly and unambiguously stated in the actual statute. So in the heavy vehicle national law, if they want you to produce logbooks and sign your logbook, they have to say, by making this statute, we are overriding the common law, right? And it has to be unambiguous in saying that we're going to override the common law. And I can guarantee you, in all those 755 pages of heavy vehicle national law, they've not said anything remotely like that.
So you'd be better off not filling in the logbook.
No, because then you're going to have a world of pain. You probably have to go to the High Court to get it turned over. But I'll give you just a quick point about labour.
What's to be done about this nonsense to the knock you off, what's going in the States, what do you made a human error?
They're not allowed to.
What, 10 or 20 pages, they go back to the book like me, for example, and it's oh, you've got to circle Victoria. It's a simple error, all the other pages I've done it correctly. And
They're not allowed
they must be on for that, they're fighting for that. You can't, what's this got to do with, safety?
But this is the issue which we hope in this Senate inquiry will address, right? They're not allowed to do that, but it depends who pulls you over on the side of the road, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you look at the National Heavy Vehicle Regulators website, down the bottom in the fine print, it's got a thing about their prosecution policy, right? So when the NHVR take over, or in fact, anyone prosecuting under heavy vehicle has to follow what's called the Commonwealth Department of prosecution policy. And it very clearly states that even if what they call a prima facie offence has occurred, meaning on the face of it, you've committed an offence, they've got to look at the circumstances around it, whether it's in the public interest to prosecute, all these things. Now, as most of you in this room know, that doesn't occur, does it? It just doesn't happen. And the things like How many of you drive B doubles then? Can you drive them interstate? Well, it's a little known fact, right? This is a federal law called the Interstate Road Transport Act, right? The heavy vehicle national law is state law, it's Queensland state law, applied or adopted in some of the other states under law, right? It can't be applied in the Northern Territory because the Northern Territory is a federal territory. You can't apply state law in the federal territory, right? So, this is the Interstate Road Transport Act, which was enforced till just last year. So, when they repealed that, it further reinforces the fact that it was enforced, right? And Section 12C, I just want to point this out to you to tell you to really lay out the bullshit of this heavy vehicle national law. The Section 12C, just bring it up now, it's entitled Operating Requirements of B doubles, right? It's only a short paragraph. It says, in spite of any law of a state relating to the operation of articulated vehicles, it is lawful subject to this Act for a B double that is operated in accordance with this Act and the regulation to be operated on a road in the state for the carriage of passengers or goods between prescribed places for any purpose that is incidental to the carriage of that kind. Prescribed places is defined as a place in one state to a place in another, right? The feds have jurisdiction on interstate trade and commerce, that's why they've done this. So what that means, if you're in a B double up until July last year, you were knocked off for any state-based offence, including fatigue laws, it brings up a constitutional problem under what they call Section 109, and there's a conflict between a federal law and a state law. The federal law will always prevail. Right? That's a federal law. So what I'm trying to say is they've written so much legislation concerning trucks, right? Because there's so much money to be made out of it, that they've forgotten what's already in place. And this is what we need to drum home to the Senate, is that we are being harvested as an industry. The classic example is I was coming down from up north and coming across here, and I'm thinking, well, shit, I'm not going on a tollway, I'm going across Castles McGregor Road. How long have I got to stay here before I get knocked off for being off the tollway? But apparently it's only 15 minutes, I've been told. But how can a state government force us when the NTC has already ruled that we pay more than our share in fuel excise, registration, all the other bullshit? How are we then? How are we then forced to pay on roads that we've already paid for through this fuel excise, and not allowed to use roads that we've paid for and it still gives it a heavy routes? How do they do that? Because we let them.
Just part of the government's rate policy.
No, we let them.
Get a truck on the rate.
And that's the thing. We've paid for those roads, right? The way tollways work is we pay for them out of our funds, and the government sells them as Transurban, and we pay for them again forevermore. That's exactly how tollways work. So there's all these sorts of things. You know, if you're running a small fleet, or you've got your own truck, or whatever, you've got to pay for medicals every year. You've got to pay all these tolls, all these permits, all these accreditations and shit. There just ain't enough in the pot. And it's usually the driver that suffers. If they're going to cut anything, it's going to be wages.
You see, what I've got to say about that, what you're saying there is great. We're all getting bent over every time we bloody get behind the work, okay? You walk out with the keys in your hand, you're a candidate for a work. But what you're talking about there, Robert, like back in the 70s, we got rid of the fuel tax because it was an unfair, unjust tax, and everybody went to South Australian registrations, if you realise, if you remember. The government decided to change the laws and get rid of the road tax and put it on everybody's fuel tax. The late 70s, early 80s, they got rid of the stamp duty on interstate registration because it contravened free trade between the states. Right? Now, the only reason any of those things got through was because guys stood together and fought about it and, you know, argued the point, got the point across and proved that we were in the right. You know, we were being unjustly treated. Now, what you're saying here is we've got all these laws that turn around and go, well, you know, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you contravene in this state, you contravene in that territory, whatever. But until we actually, well, we can sit here and whinge about all the ills of the industry, but we've already shown that by sticking together and putting a sensible case together, we don't have to talk about all the bits and pieces bullshit. We've just got to get in there and
But that's the biggest problem, isn't it?
Sorry?
That is the biggest.
But that is the biggest problem.
I've got to
But see,
bring-
we can't keep addressing all these little problems, because these little problems are what's fucking us over. We've got 5,000 problems here. We've got enforcement, we've got our losses, we've got our fleet management, you know, you go on and on and on. Nobody, I was just saying to Steve earlier, I don't care how holier than thou you are, how right you run your business, it's impossible for you to walk out of the house with those keys in your pocket, jump in the truck, and go from here to Melbourne or whatever, and be 100% legal all the way. And until we address and fuck off all these little problems and address the major issue of the fact that the industry has no respect, it has no, there is nowhere we can go for help. You know, you're going to ring up the Anti-Discrimination Board and say, I'm discriminated against, and they say, why? Is it sexual or is it
racial?
Racial or sexual? No, I'm a truck driver and I'm harassed by the police. Well, I'm sorry, we can't help you.
Oh, listen,
Hang up it. You know,
I've
we've
got to raise
You're
it.
right. The whole point is that we need to get ourselves together. We've got to stop this bullshit of just everybody saying, oh, they're talking shit. He's talking shit.
Yeah.
We've got to get
Exactly.
together and argue the whole
Exactly.
case.
And this is the
That's what needs to happen, and this is the beginning.
Just let me finish here. Just got an idea, right? Now, we know, I'm a member of the union, Queensland TW. I'm not happy with them at all. Right? I'm not happy with the union movement at all. You might have read a bit of a blurb in Big Rigs this month where me and another fella are making an application to the Federal Commission to make changes to the Monument Board because it's outdated and the associations depend on these sort of various definitions to get out of paying drivers properly. If you look around Australia, right, we already know that Ombudsman, none of that are going to help us, right? We know that NatRoads, ATA, none of these associations, they're not there for drivers, right? And I'm talking from a driver's perspective here, but it can be owner drivers as well, right? Because the union does have the owner drivers, does have coverage of it. If we all join the union, right, or largely join the union, and then tell them what we want to happen. Because at the moment, there's a big, strong anti-union feeling. I get that, right? And I've criticised them heavily myself. But there is no one else that can help us. There's nobody out there, right, that will take us on board in numbers and speak for us.
We don't need it now. We're doing it ourselves now. Here's the thing. We've got 10, 15 people here, and this for a day of a hearing in Brisbane, they're not going to be able to hear all of us if we're all lined up. There's 2 days of hearing, and if you each bring one person, then there's going to be 4 days of hearing. And this is the point, is that even if you're this end of the spectrum or that end of the spectrum, which end's the small end and which end's the big end, they need to hear it. And just need an email, come along and say it. And like you said, he's going to blow out the hearings till October. So it gives us enough time for you to tell all your mates, you to tell all your mates, you to tell all your mates. If we had this many people turn up to day one of the hearing, and it's going to be live streamed again, right? Everyone's going to hear it, we're going to publish it, no one's going to miss out this time.
But not to disparage the hearings, right? But there'll be heaps of submissions, there'll be heaps of information. That of course, right? That all has to be disseminated, and in the meantime, there could be a change of government or whatever. And what I'm saying about, we can all, and I've heard it for years, blokes going up and down the road bitching about this, bitching about that. No one ever does it. No one even puts pen to paper. The classic thing about enforcement, the one easy way to screw the whole system, right, is every penny from the notice you ever get, just tick the court election box. The judiciary system would collapse overnight. they will not be able to cope with it, right? Send the message back to them that way. We've had enough of this, we want our day in court, they can never handle it, right? But if we don't gel ourselves into some sort of cohesive voice, instead of having 50 voices going everywhere, get together in a cohesive sort of voice in a body such as a union, right? Because, like I said, I know we've all got our thoughts about unions and individual prejudice, but I can tell you there is no one else out there that can possibly have a big corner. There's no one else in Australia that is interested in taking about the laws.
I've been there since 1979. The first blockade we had there, the Green Dog, the Razorback.
Yep.
And I was in every blockade we had. What did we achieve?
Absolutely nothing.
But that's because it wasn't organised. You need to be organised and stay organised and not stay together.
No way, no.
You do not
Because
want to,
I did 20 trips over here and said I never want to come over here because I can only work 11 hours at a time. And we know there's basic fatigue management, there's advanced fatigue management. And I've said this very clearly to Sal Petrodollar, Sal anyway, and his crew. And I've also said this in support with the Western Roads Federation being headed up by Cam Dunsey and Craig Smith-Gander. We in WA never ever will ever entertain the Eastern States rules. We don't want the Eastern States rules. We've got 17-hour days out there. I'm not going to get into an argument with you about 17 hours. Do I think it can be improved and tweaked? Yeah, of course I do. Everything can be tweaked. So it's not going to happen. And unless the West Australians' view very clearly is if the National Heavy Vehicle Regulator wants to adopt West Australia's rules, then West Australia's in. Otherwise, no way. So can I just come back? Sorry, and I don't know your movements. I'm in no rush. I don't have to be in Millmerran till tomorrow morning. But I want to just say a few things that I'd like to. One thing I know about my trucking brothers and sisters, because I've spent so much time with them, we easily get deflected into different arguments. We do. The employers have been very good and governments have been very good to doing that to us. But I think the first thing is, number one is we can't continue going down the path we're going down. We can't. It's not going to be around. Number two is the good, the bad, the ugly, the RSRT and all that sort of stuff, and I was all for having legislation to protect us from whistleblower stuff and cost recovery, get all that. What's been put in its place since the industry was conned into having a rally? And I've had this conversation with Gordon McKinley. Absolutely nothing. Nothing was put in its place. And Gordo and I, fierce advocates against each other. I've spoken at the National Road Freighter Association conference. I've been invited back. They even said to me, you don't have two heads, shit, you know, you can come back. Unfortunately, I have a mate's daughter's wedding that I can't attend the one in Dubbo. Because when all is said and done, we must focus as an industry. The industry needs, and Rob, I love all your work, mate, and you know I'm not the lawyer and you leave me for dead on a lot of your argument. But we've got to just isolate. I have two, this is my view. There's low-hanging fruit, and then there's the serious stuff. None of you would argue, and if you do, please, I want to hear your voice. We will have thrown at us all the reasons why we can't have cost recovery, we can't have protection, we can't have enforcement, we can't have better fatigue management, we can't get rid of all the shit rules against us, stop fining us ridiculous amounts of money. There's state law, there's government law, there's federal law. But you know what? Why don't we just face the facts as they are? One, there is nowhere to go that says you can't pay me any less than this amount, correct? Well, no protection. Secondly, who says I'm going to pay you? And if I don't pay you, what's going to happen? Oh, you're going to threaten to knock my lights out, or you might steal my trailer or something, but there's no law that says I have to pay you. Two things. I don't see that's been done. Three, if you've got, and as I said this very clearly, this is where I won the majority of the transport industry on this argument. As an operator, whether you're one truck or 1,000 trucks, it is none of my business what you charge to move that box from here to there. That's not my business. Do whatever you like. But if you're going to engage subcontractors, then it's our business. It needs to be our business. Say, sure, you can charge $1, but you're paying the subby $1,000. Or if you engage company drivers, charge whatever you like, but you can't go below that rate for the company driver. And if you do, we're going to pull out a big legislative stick and we're going to whack you around the head with it. We're going to get the driver's money and we're going to fine you. There's three issues. Four, as we all know this, there are not enough truck bays in this nation. Pretty simple. Four pretty simple things. if we have, and I understand your argument, brother. That's why I'm standing here today. Because I shut my eyes like this, I could still be I could be in Barradale Roadhouse hearing the same argument. Nothing's changed. But what we do have to do is we've got to say, you know what? If there is political will, if we've got someone in the political system that says, hang on, we've got to do something, we've got to fix this, that in itself is a good first step. The second thing is to bring the industry along with us, the drivers, the operators, and understand my argument. My argument is not with, although I'm watching my language because I know operators out there that should be in jail. I know there's companies out there, these bastards that are screwing the living daylights, not only out of their drivers, out of the owner drivers, they're fucking thieves. I'm sorry for that. I've got to start speaking as a truck driver now. That's who I am. Thieves who should be in jail. And those same turds are probably the wife's driving, and I suspect the partner's driving the latest Mercedes or BMW. That prick's got a boat that's on the canals at the Gold Coast, and yet they can't afford to pay us.
How many times?
I won't get an argument there, will I? Sorry, Rob, just so
I've heard you. You came in after I said something, and this is something that you missed. This country, first and foremost, regardless of whether you're Western Australian, you work 7 years, needs one set of fucking laws. One.
I just said it in an interview.
Transport industry needs to have one set of rules we all work to.
I just said in the interview there, why am I supposed to be more tired because there's a line on the map? I've crossed from Western Australia where I'm not tired, I've still got 3 hours to go, but I'm in the Northern Territory.
That's it, right. So Western Australia allows 17 hours, big deal. Okay, if you're going to have to go into the eastern states, you know that you're going into a law that says you're only allowed 14 hours if you have a certain certificate. Okay, so you know that's what you're going to do. They can't come and harass you, or they can't come and harass a eastern state truck that goes into Western Australia and they do 17 hours in Western Australia.
Like, how can a Queensland law?
But that doesn't change that the country needs one set of laws for legal mag.
And this is what I'm trying to say, guys and girls. The simplistic, we can splinter off into all sorts of arguments. They'll become a left, right, and centre, and I don't like that truck stop because they told me how to do it. This is where we'll end up. I know we will. This is how it always happens. It hasn't changed in the 40. I've been around the industry 44 years or something. But what I am saying is if we can focus, where is our focus got to be? And clearly our focus is, I would love nothing better than to walk into the Archerfield BP in 5 years' time and see the same face and go, you know what, we're actually making a living. That would really make me happy.
You've got to make a living first.
Yep, making
Otherwise,
a living.
rules mean nothing.
You know?
That was something I was brought up. I was 7 when the old man bought a truck. I'm a Kiwi, right? And
You don't have to defend that, brother. It's all right, we're
hey, I've been here 20 years. I'm quite happy to be here.
Where you going?
When you do.
Private Federation New Zealand is part of Australia anyway, so.
He made a simple statement. He said it's cheaper for me to go broke with the keys hanging on the hook than feeding the fucking thing in
You know my argument when I was a union delegate at Hampshire Ridgeways? I'd rather the bucket of shit. I'd rather go broke with the bucket of shit in the driveway in Cardinia. At least I'll see the kids. They're running between Perth and Darwin. That's why we would fight. And we're all.
But you know what you're saying, right? My submission to the Senate inquiry will be this stuff. Hopefully Glenn will ask me how can we fix it? How can we fix it at an international level, right? What can we do to
Get rid of the alphabet club.
make it better? And the way we do it, right? is-
Speak up a bit, please.
The way we do it is it gets taken off Queensland and becomes a federal law, right? With all the protections that, because believe it or not, if you're prosecuted under federal law, you have a lot more protections and defences than you do under the fascist state laws, right? Now, it's given to the feds. They've done it before, right? There's a precedent. Give it to the feds. The regulator becomes a federal entity rather than a Queensland entity, right? And then the states have become, oh shit, what about all our revenue, right? That can be worked out. States can become agents or whatever, but put into federal hands, we mostly all involved in interstate trade and commerce, which the feds have jurisdiction over. Okay, you do that, and then it is a uniform law, and the way they change it also is something that's applicable and digestible to all Australians, not this parochial state, I want this, I want that sort of stuff, right? It's something that's fair and equitable for all Australians, because when people say to me, what country do you come from? I don't say Queensland or New South Wales, it's Australia, right?
No, you're getting down to specifics again, specific things, you know, and we could be for hours and hours going on this specific, that specific. I think, like Glenn said, we just need to work out what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. We're going to get in together, then we can attack everything that we need to attack under the one umbrella.
So like I'm saying, they're calling for the submissions for the heavy vehicle national.
Yeah, well, we understand that. And all I'm saying is that if we're going to sit here and keep on getting into the specifics on the laws, on the wages, and this, and what we're going to do, we're going to be here all day.
But what's the broadsword though?
Well, can I?
Well, hang on, see what Glenn's got to say.
I was going to ask you, Glenn, as you know, I've got a little bit of knowledge of Senate committees and whatever.
He was a good game, mate. He's the only one who didn't rap.
Oh, we'll have a conversation about that later.
On the track stuff. On the track.
Okay, look, the question that I have, and look, you all see the news every day, you know, there's been a Senate inquiry into this or that or whatever, and at the end of it, the president or the chairman of the committee will present his report, and everybody feels warm and fuzzy, you know, it's like having a piss in a wetsuit, you know, nobody else knows about it. What my question is, you never ever see these reports go anywhere, right? Now you can write the greatest report in the world and say, hey, this is what we want to do. You can present that report, and at the end of the day, you've got a load of bureaucrats there who say, fuck you, we run this country, you're only a politician, right? So really, where do we go from there? I mean, I think that's a legitimate question. I'm not trying to hang it on you here. I just want to know what the hell happened.
That's why
What we can do about it when that
happens.
happens.
It's just about them.
Okay, and I'm glad you raised that. Because my conversations with Anthony Albanese was Albo when he took over the leadership of the Labor Party. I said to Albo, I said, look, I'd like to continue working on the road safety shadow portfolio, but also the safe roads. He said, done, do it. We're supporting it all the way. So to answer your question, I will write a report that will be based on anecdotal evidence taken from the experts in the industry that do it. And I will have recommendations there which I will put to my party and say, this is what I reckon. Because what I want to be able to do is go to the next election and say, if Labor's elected, this is what we're going to do. This is what I'm going to do a thing. We know that. But I don't want to get there, and then if Labor does win the election, I say, now what do we do?
Because the whole doesn't win the election, what you're basically saying is we're
going to do it
anyway.
Yeah, well, that's right.
So
You're right, but I'm glad you did
we're
ask.
pitching in the wind, basically.
You
Well,
can't
you
release
know what?
after this shower
Well,
shit.
but hang on, let me put this to you. You know, I work on the theory, you're banging against brick wall, it hurts. Well, I've been banging my head on this brick wall since I came out of school, a smart ass who, I was very balanced, I was on both shoulders when I was a 15-year-old going into Ansett Ridgeway, so I knew everything. Boy, didn't I get a lesson in life. But I've got to tell you this, at the age of 20, I was the union delegate, because I've always worked on a theory. It's all very well. Everyone can have a few beers at the cute old hotel and gob off about how tough you are at work and how we've got to stand up and blue the boss. Bit of a different story when the boss is standing there ready to sack you. You've got to stand up. And I was just lucky to be in a yard full of guys that were stand-up guys. They were all removalist, they all had chips on both shoulders, but they actually backed each other in. And we stood up and we fought and we had our rates. We got our money, we got paid, we went from monthly to weekly. We've got our rates lifted every year to 1 year when they said, this is Ansett with TNT, so we're not paying if you don't like it, there's the gate. We said, good, so we'll go stand at the gate until you do pay it. So I was lucky to be in a yard that the rules were different back then. But I've got to come back to this. The whole idea is, I am, you know, towards the end of my career, I can't sit back and, you know, it'll never be fixed, it'll always be the same. Yes, if we continue this attitude where it will be, but I've got to tell you, if we get out there and start talking about, we simplify our issues where we want to address them and not get sparks flying off like Australia Day where we're all going into these things, to actually focus down into simple arguments about what do we want. We want to be sustainable, we want to be paid the rate that has a cost recovery. Nothing wrong with that. This is how all businesses work. We want to be paid in an appropriate time. I believe we should be paid on the cash on delivery. But anyway, the consensus is 30 days because that's when your fuel bills and your tyre bills come in. And for those that aren't doing the right thing, they get a penalty. Put the problem back. So I'm happy to have the challenge. But I want to put this to you guys and girls. If we don't do it, as I said to you, I'm off to Bali. Arrivederci. See you later. Try my best. I'll be 62 by then. But I've still got a family here. I want to be able to work with the industry, so come on, let's stand up. We're not talking about going in there pulling machine guns out. But why do I have to sit in Canberra? Why do I have to have the mining industry and the oil and gas industry and all these others marching through there? What a wonderful industry we are. If it wasn't for you, like, you'd all be eating dirt. Yet the trucking industry does not have a united voice. There is not a voice that goes to Canberra and speaks for the industry. And I'm going to tell you right now, the TWU do their bit, then you'll have the ATA do their bit, and then you'll have other bits and pieces trying and no one listens to this, depends who's in government, that sort of thing. But I want to just plant the seed. This is why we can't give up. We've got to start the ball rolling. Unreasonable people will make things change and happen. You're all reasonable, but it takes the ones to stand up and say, come on, let's do it together, let's improve this. You can't have Steve running around doing all this work on his own. We'll agree with what he's doing, but eventually, I don't want to be rude, Steve, but your bucket's going to be empty, mate. And then you're going to sit back and say, who's going to step up to the plate? This should be a greater argument that we're all doing. But let me just, and if I don't mention an industry association, take it they're not on board. And I've been travelling this nation, extensively talking to trucking industries, trucking conferences. I have been in rooms with people that would rather spear me 4 or 5 years ago, who are now working with me. So what I can tell you, Nat Roads are on board. Okay? Nat Roads didn't want anything to do with the RSRT, they're on board. The Road Freighters Association, on board, working with me. TWU, of course, on board, working with me. There are a number of state associations working with me. The Victorian Transport Association, the Tasmanian Transport Association, Western Roads Federation and the Northern Territory Road Transport Association, the Queensland Transport Association, who have all sat there and said, we can't continue to keep going the way we're going. Now, most of this mob all went, let's get rid of the RSRT out here, boom, kick, correct? Now we're all sitting back in the same room, and if I haven't mentioned anyone, they're not on board. And you've soon worked out there's one state missing there.
Well, what basically
Oh, New South Wales Road Freighters too, sorry.
what basically has to happen, all those entities have to come together, get one delegate to be the big mouthpiece, and that way it's going to work.
Well, I think what you'll find there, and I'll just correct everything, they want to do that, I don't want to do that, because the owner drivers will get left out.
No, they'll have their entities there as well.
Yes, that's right, that's right. So what
I mean, all these like companies, owner drivers, a delegate for company drivers, the whole lot come together, have one mouthpiece that'll come to you or whoever, blah, 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 say their piece as an industry mouthpiece.
We can't do that at this stage because you know that I've missed one state who is absolutely opposed. There's been 2 organisations mentioned in this room earlier on that I didn't mention in that group that are one of the association's greatest achievements. This is their greatest achievement, is they killed off the RSRT. Well, fantastic. So tell me how owner drivers, truck drivers and trucking companies, how our lot's improved. The momentum, there are more on the side of we need to do something now. You'll read their submissions, you'll see that we'll be doing some podcasts, you'll see who's doing the bit. Ones, there are associations and groups that I couldn't even be in the same room with, but we are now all on board moving. But when I set up the delegations to go see the new minister, hopefully that we could get something done, pick up some of the low-hanging fruits and get the disappointing, but I made sure that the owner drivers were represented, the small industry association, small employers were represented, the big end of town do their thing, and then there's some other associations. But I would always argue, while we're diverse, let's look at it this way. When you have the likes of Toll, let me please use Toll and Linfox because they're the biggest. And they know darn well, right? They're going to get caught up in this. They're all supportive of it, they're fully supportive of it because they were fully opposed to it before. But who employs the majority of contractors and owner drivers in the trucking industry? It's them. And I'll say this, and I've said it to Linfox, I've said it to Toll. You buggers are the worst of the lot too, because you screw your contractors down. Oh, you look after your company drivers, they'll be on TW enterprise agreements, and well, they get paid the best dollars, and I know my own blokes from Linfox. But when there's a gap in, oh shit, we've got to get this load here, quick, bring a sub in and screw it down. But they're now on board saying, we can't keep going. We just can't keep going this much.
Just saying that a lot of those big subbies you'll find too, Lindsay Brothers, Toll, they'll give the bottom feeders, right, the jobs that they can't do themselves, right? The ones that involve you having to break fatigue laws and load yourself and unlock and overnight and all that sort of shit.
That's always been.
So we take the risk, they take the risk, get the least dollars for it, or they sit back and take the cream.
You're right, but where we are now, guys, and I don't want to talk for the other ones, they can talk for themselves. I wouldn't come here and bullshit what reps are worth a week. I can't afford to have that. I can't afford, but I'm telling you now, Frank, you were at them. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, you're right.
You were at both of them, mate. Okay, and next time, and there will be another one towards the end of this inquiry too. And there will be owner-driver representatives, because I know there's owner-driver representatives out there that didn't know that were there before. Okay, like yourself, Steve, and others who will be there. But what I want to say is very clearly, we are at a junction in this nation's transport history where there actually is now momentum coming, not just from one group. And I think that in itself, from, you know, the old thing, from small things, big things grow. But if I was wrong, I wouldn't be welcome in this room today. If the dollars were great and everything was tickety-boo and roses, you wouldn't be sitting here. You'd be watching this Judge Judy or something more entertaining. Because we all know what we're saying here, I don't think we're off the mark too much. But it is a case of we have to focus our energies. We have to really, so the inquiry will hear every little bit and piece, and I may seem a bit dismissive. I say, look, that's here. How do we get here? Not that I'm trying to preempt, I just know that we'll shoot off in all sorts of directions if we don't focus on where do we need to be. Because if you're making money, no one's got a problem.